This video is sponsored by me and Learn Light and Sound. We have courses on how to make better sound and lighting for your videos. Link down below. In full disclosure, Rycote sent this microphone to me to make this review. They haven't told me what to say. They're not paying me beyond providing the microphone. All the opinions here are my own. This entire episode is recorded with the Rycote SC-08 boom just out of the frame here, and it is recording into a Sound Devices 888 field recorder. We have normalized the audio to minus 23 LUFS, sort of a standardized level, and have not done any other processing to the audio, so you can hear exactly how it sounds directly out of the recorder. Now, where does this, first of all, fit in the market? Who is this microphone for? I would call this a professional level indoor boom microphone for video, for capturing dialogue. That's at least the context in which I'm looking at it. And I feel like it has a really, really good performance to price ratio, which is to say for a $500 microphone, I would consider it a professional grade microphone that performs very nicely, with a couple of exceptions that we'll cover in just a moment here, which may or may not matter for your particular use case. But that's substantially less expensive than most of the small diaphragm condenser microphones with supercardioid polar patterns that are typically used for video production for capturing dialogue. In some cases, like a third of the price. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. First up, let's start with some audio samples comparing it to a couple of other mics.
It was easier to know it than to explain why I know it. If you were asked to prove that 2 and 2 made 4, you might find some difficulty, and yet you are quite sure of the fact. It was easier to know it than to explain why I know it. If you were asked to prove that 2 and 2 made 4, you might find some difficulty, and yet you are quite sure of the fact. It was easier to know it than to explain why I know it. If you were asked to prove that 2 and 2 made 4, you might find some difficulty, and yet you are quite sure of the fact.
It was easier to know it than to explain why I know it. If you were asked to prove that 2 and 2 made 4, you might find some difficulty, and yet you are quite sure of the fact. It was easier to know it than to explain why I know it. If you were asked to prove that 2 and 2 made 4, you might find some difficulty, and yet you are quite sure of the fact. It was easier to know it than to explain why I know it. If you were asked to prove that 2 and 2 made 4, you might find some difficulty, and yet you are quite sure of the fact. Now we have a few other samples testing various aspects of the microphone. She sells seashells by the seashore. By the seashore, she sells seashells. Okay, here I am speaking into the front of the microphone, and I'm going to slowly turn the microphone off to the side here so that you can hear the off-axis coloration and response, and we're going to go ahead and continue turning. This, of course, is a supercardioid. It's going to be most null here. I think this is the null point right here. The most sound is going to be rejected at this point, and then as I turn, it'll pick up a little bit more. Tends, it looks like from the polar response graph that it is going to pick up more bass on the back than some of the other frequencies. And let's go ahead and turn our way back here. Again, here we are at about 90 degrees, and we're going to continue until we are right back on axis at 0 degrees. Overall, the sound quality to me seems very neutral and balanced. It seems to capture pretty nicely and evenly across the entire audible spectrum for dialogue. And I would say that it's in a good position to be able to EQ it and kind of tune it to how you want it to sound, tune it to different voices to get the best out of them. It doesn't have nearly the bass response as the Sennheiser MKH50 Mini will notice, which is an alluring sound for many. But I will say the MKH50, in my estimation, is a little on the bass-heavy side. So this one definitely starts with a more neutral sound, a little bit closer to the Schoeps than to the Sennheiser. As you saw in this sample there, where we're cueing the microphone back and forth, it's very good at mechanical and handling noise. We didn't pick up a lot of noise there, which was really nice. Now, that's actually better than some much more expensive microphones. So for example, one of my favorite microphones, with the exception of its mechanical noise or handling noise issue, is the Sennheiser MKH8050. This one did better than that microphone in that department. So they don't sound the same, but the Rycote seems to handle, when you're using it in a good shock mount, handles that movement very nicely without transferring it into mechanical vibrations, which then get picked up as sound in the microphone. So it does a nice job there. We also put a transmitter near the microphone here in a position where you would typically use it when you're doing a wireless boom, for example. And this was the Sound Devices A10 transmitter. It was set to 518.200 megahertz, I believe, and we didn't get any sort of radio frequency interference. So the RF shielding on this microphone actually seems quite good. And that's one of the things that you won't find on the less expensive mics. They may not put as much effort into that design. It's not as important to them because they're trying to hit a much smaller price point. But Rycote recognized, I think, that that's an important thing for people that are working with professional level mics, and they definitely put some nice effort into that, and it shows. The key jangling sample, you might be asking, what's that all about? Well, it's just to kind of take a look at how it manages transients. And I would say overall it manages them pretty nicely. There's nothing that's sticking way out and risking you getting a lot of clipping type of things. Some microphones that tend to be really sensitive to achieve their higher frequency response tend to get really erratic when it comes to the transients in my experience. So this one seems pretty nice and balanced there. Self-noise is spec'd at 12 decibels A-weighted, which is good. That's very much in line with the Sennheiser MKH50, for example, and I didn't find it to be a problem in any of the work that we've done with this microphone so far. Its max sound pressure level capabilities at 133 dB SPL, so it can handle and record loud sound sources, at least anything that most voices can deliver. If you're going to be recording explosions and maybe guns at close range, maybe this is not the mic for you, but other than that, it's going to do a nice job. It does include a hard case, foam cover, a microphone stand clip, although I will note, for those in the United States, if you are planning to put this on a microphone stand with a 5/8 inch threaded connector, you will need an adapter. This has a 3/8 inch thread, which is standard for boom poles and standard for microphone stands, not in North America. So it's a little different there, just so you're aware. These are manufactured in Portland, Oregon in the United States, if that's of importance to you. It does come with a 2-year warranty, and at the time of this review, it's priced at $500 US, $499 US. Now, there were a couple of things that I will point out. This is not a perfect mic. There's no perfect microphone, but some of the challenges that this microphone has. Number one, I did find it to be somewhat colored off axis, especially at the back of the microphone. So a supercardioid puller pattern is a really nice puller pattern for booming, for indoor dialogue in particular. And this is no exception here. This one works really nicely for that. But with a supercardioid puller pattern, there's a little tail on the back where it picks up some sound. And in particular, this mic was a little bit more sensitive in the bass range, the lower frequencies on the back of the mic than some others. So it's a little bit more colored than some of the more expensive mics. It's not too different than a lot of shotgun mics, to be honest, but it is not quite as even as some other pencil condenser non-shotgun microphones with a supercardioid puller pattern. So is that going to be a huge issue, a huge deal breaker? I don't think so for most of us. If you're doing some really critical things where you're working in a reverberant space and you want to very specifically and carefully control how this responds, maybe you'll care about that. But I think for those that are getting started in their professional production sound or location sound careers, I think this is a great place to start. I don't feel like that's a massive deal breaker. One other thing to note, it doesn't have a high pass filter or a pad built into the microphone, so you will need to rely on your mixer recorder to do any sort of high pass filtering. So there is one other microphone that I think is worthy of mention roughly in this price range, and that is the Audio-Technica AT4053b. Now, in the earlier audio samples, I compared to a couple of different microphones that are used pretty widely in production sound for video and film. I wanted to compare one other microphone here for you, or sample it for you, that is closer in price to the Rycote, and that is the Audio-Technica AT4053b. Now, this microphone is not exactly the same. It has a hyper-cardioid puller pattern, so it's even more directional, and you may notice here that as I get off axis here, it falls off pretty quickly. This is an example of a hypercardioid puller pattern. And also, I'll let you decide with your own ears how you think this one sounds relative to the Rycote. Now, the Audio-Technica is similar in price, but it's actually $200 more. So the Rycote comes in at essentially $500 US, and the Audio-Technica comes in at $700 US. So there's a comparison for you there. So what's my recommendation on this microphone? If you are working on a slightly tighter budget and you're getting into professional dialogue recording for location or production sound for video, I think this is a really, really solid microphone to start with. Overall, I like the fact that it has a fairly even response. The price is like less than half of a Sennheiser MKH50, less than a third of the price of a Schoeps CMC 641. So overall, I mean, the value here is pretty tremendous for what you're getting. They've paid attention to the really critical things like RF immunity. The handling noise is very well managed. So I think that for me, it covers the most critical things. And I think it's a pretty awesome buy for the money. So hope that was helpful for you. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave those down below. In the meantime, get out there and make some great sound. Talk to you again soon.